Hi folks, Gary Dunsheep, Big Bend Saddlery, and for this month's tack tip I wanted to talk a little bit about the tree fit and how changing up the measurements on a tree can affect some things that might not know that it affects. The measurements I'm talking about are the gullet height that you measure whenever your tree is sitting on a flat surface. You measure from the flat surface to the top of the gullet. Your gullet width, you measure across here where the bars tie into the swells right there. And the third one that can kind of affect what we're going to talk about is the bar spread right here. And there are some other measurements that go along with that. The gullet width and height at the back of the gullet, the bar spread on the back of the bars, the distance between the bars back there. There's a lot of things that play into this, but these are the ones we're going to talk about right now because that's the ones that usually get changed. Let's say that historically you've been riding a saddle with an 8-inch high gullet, 6.5 inches wide, 8 inches high, and the reason that that's been done so much is because the horses had a little bit higher withers, and then say you're going through a 30-day works and riding remuda horses and they start melting, and they kind of melt from the top down, and seems like they're growing withers, so your saddle has to be able to fit them at the end of the works just like it did at the first of the works, so you needed that extra height. But now maybe you've got better horses, they're a little more foundation bred, a little more muscled up in the front end, and you'd like a saddle that fits down closer to their back. And that's a really good idea to do that if you can get away with it. And some of the things that can happen whenever you do that by changing these measurements up, say you want a 7.5 or 7.25 inch gullet height, so you're lowering the gullet. When you lower the gullet, you're lowering the swells, and you can lower all this by lowering the gullet height, by widening the gullet width, or by spreading out the bars, the flare on the bars, or a combination of any of those three things. But the thing that can happen that a lot of people don't think about is your horn goes with the swells. Wherever the swells go, the horn goes too. And whenever the horn that you've ridden for years and years set up here, and now it's down here. And a lot of guys have trouble with that if they're dally ropers, and you go to dally and your horn's not there. It's down lower, and it can be a problem. I know I learned how to dally rope on what they called a 2-rope horn back in the 70s. And a 2-rope horn, they called it that because they used it in tie-down competition or single steer roping, where guys packed 2 ropes to rope with. They missed the first loop, they got a second loop, but they had to carry an extra rope. And it was just high enough to carry 2 ropes. And I learned on that, and it was real low. And then later on I got a saddle that the gullet was higher on and the horn was even higher. I thought I needed a dally horn, and man, I never could get used to that, so I had to go back to a lower gullet and a lower horn before I could dally on it. But just take that into consideration if you're changing tree styles. You might want to know if the gullet's higher or lower, or if you've requested your saddle maker to do a lower gullet so it fits closer to your horse's back. Just, you might want to rope in one that's already made like that, just to see if it doesn't mess you up with the horn. Just it's not a big deal, but it's one of those things that sure works out better if we plan for it ahead. Thanks for watching.